We're Ilya and Azra, and after finally purchasing our first van, we proceeded to repair some of the major dents and rust spots, remove the old flooring and panels, and install 2 windows. While Azra is in Spain on her student exchange, it's time to get my hands dirty with insulating the van. Welcome to Van Life, yeah. Today we'll be talking mostly about insulation. We got XPS, which is like rigid board, I believe it's called. We got EPS, which is like modernized advanced styrofoam. We got mineral wool here. We got a spoof of reflectives. It's like reflective foil. We even got a little bit of subflooring. It's super thin, like 2 millimeters. And somewhere here we even got spray foam. I should have got it out in time. You see, spray foam. But first, let's take it a couple days back when we were painting the floor and just buying all this stuff. Long story short, very long story, very short. We searched far and wide for windows for this van, but because it's such a unique version, it was never made to have windows. There were no windows in the entire country, but we stumbled upon a company that makes custom-sized windows, and it came out a lot more expensive, but we now got windows. We can continue with the interior. These windows are definitely over 1 meter long. That's pretty huge. That's literally half of the van on both sides, but it looks dope. So if you look really close, you can see they had to mount it on the outside where the edge is sticking out. But from far away, it doesn't look half bad. It actually makes the van look a lot more modern than it actually is. And yeah, I can't wait, just sitting here on a rainy day, sipping coffee with this beautiful view. So now that we finished all the interior handyman outsourcing stuff, we can finally get to painting the inside. So I got some rust cleaner anti-corrosion thing and some 3-in-1 anti-corrosion white paint. This feels like a deja vu. We just did this like a month ago. Well, I did make a mistake, and that is taking the floor off too early, because all the handyman work resulted in these little dots, which happens when you saw and do something with metal and then little hot sparks come off, dig themselves inside the paint and start rusting just because of the humidity in the air. Definitely my bad. Tip to future self: do not take out the floor, or at least keep some kind of covering if you're planning to do body work. Easy tips: buy yourself an hour of extra scrubbing and cleaning. Honey, what do you think?
It's amazing. I love it.
Big difference, huh?
Yeah.
Baby, that's looking really good.
Thank you. It's smelling so fine.
So now that our floor looks brand new, it's time to get some of the electrics going underneath the insulation. Another weird thing about the van, you can't really get through any of these separators, so this needs to go over, of course underneath the paneling that will go on top. And then only some parts like this can fit underneath. The weird thing about these cables is that this pipe thing is ribbed inside as well, so it goes in like a little amount, but nothing. Yeah, but then after a while it gets stuck because it bends with the rib. So you have to do this weird wavy thing so that it keeps going inside.
And you have to say,
You're doing it pretty good so far.
I know my way around pipes.
Oh. I feel it. A little bit more.
Just my finger hurts.
Wanna switch?
No.
You don't wanna do the wobbly thing?
No.
They're here. Yay, honey. Well done. Bedroom socket, done. Overhead lights, done. Second bedroom socket, done. Central area is here. And then we had to put the second row of kitchen lights down, and I'll come out here and light up this row. After a long day at work, and then the whole afternoon going around getting materials for the van. I don't know if you can see them in the back. It's full of insulation materials, and they're all there except the wood. The wood is still coming on Monday. I want to spend a minute and talk about each of these materials, what they're good for and why I chose them. Not because I'm some expert, and this applies for the whole video. I'm learning, just like most of you out there. If there are any experts who see that I'm doing something wrong, please let me know, even though this is probably going to get checked by professionals. If you can learn something or get an extra piece of information that you didn't before, awesome. I'm gonna start with spray foam over here. Spray foam is amazing because it doesn't have a shape, so you can stick it absolutely anywhere. And a lot of vans, I've seen conversions where a professional spray team comes in with a tank and with a sprayer and they spray down the entire interior of a van with spray foam. The problem is, they say as it expands, because it can expand several times its size, it can dent or disform the panels of the van, which is one of the big downsides, but it's also very expensive. It's probably one of the most expensive types of insulation just because of the price of the material. But you get like a really solid coat with no holes. So if someone can afford it, that's probably awesome. But in our case, we'll just be using it to fill up the tiny little gaps where nothing else is able to fit. So you see you got little holes like this, or even this. This isn't big enough to get mineral wool inside, but you can stick the straw in and spray it down. Next up we have mineral wool, which is going to be used to fill up slightly bigger spaces like this. You can't fit a rigid board in here, anything that has like anything that's solid. But then this, because it's kind of woolly, you can just fit it in, slide it in between, and fill up these weird spaces without spending as much money as you would on spray foam. You also got gaps inside the door, inside the back door once we take these panels off. So there are a lot of places where that kind of wool will go. Rigid board is amazing, and that is what most people use. And I picked 3 centimeters, not very thick. It's a little bit bigger than an inch, I believe. And that's gonna go into the floor and into the ceiling. And these are the little wooden ribs that are gonna hold it up. Now it's a fine balance to keep. You do want it to be well isolated, but you also don't want to lose like, 20 centimeters of height, because then I'd be walking like this all the time because I'm 185 and this van is 185 without any insulation, so we're already sacrificing quite a bit of space. But we're not planning like any extreme winters or any extreme summers in this conversion just yet. So we have mild insulation, which I believe will do its work, but we still have the height that we need. On the other hand, the space between the wall and the ribs is really huge. It's more than 5 centimeters, and there's nothing you can do about it. You can't really use it for anything else other than insulation. So instead of putting like a tiny piece of rigid board and all this wasted space, and I opted not to get like 5 or 6 centimeter rigid board, which is a lot more expensive, I went with the more old school styrofoam, or EPS. So it's almost double the thickness, it's 5 centimeters, but it still has a pretty good R value, which is what insulation is measured. And so putting these in all the major spots where we have a lot of thickness, we'll pretty much have the same level of insulation as the 3 centimeter on the floor and the ceiling. So I'm watching this and I realize it's quite long. We're already at 7 minutes and I just started talking about some of the installation things. So we're gonna cut up this vlog into at least 2 or 3 different vlogs, because they're important info, I think, that some people want to know, but then for the vast majority of people it's probably not that interesting. So see you in the next part.